Thursday morning. So here we are. I want to go through before spring break with you guys some of the notes that you should have copied yesterday on sex-linked traits. So this is the last type that we're going to learn before spring break. When we come back from spring break, you guys will be working on some practice problems that go along with this, and we'll be continuing our types of problems. So we're almost to the end. We have a few more things that we have to do. Dihybrids. We'll do some things with karyotypes and pedigrees. And we'll keep moving on from there. So you should have these notes in front of you. I also sent you guys a little PowerPoint that shows you some of what these particular genetic disorders may look like and how that X and Y chromosome might actually look in a comparison to one another. So when we do sex-linked traits, we're still doing all 5 steps that we do with our monohybrids, our incompletes, our codominant ones, our multiple allele ones. Our steps are always going to be the same. The only thing that's really changing in any of these problems is our key. So with sex-linked traits, these are ones that are going to be found on the X chromosome. So when we talk about this X chromosome, we're talking about the sex chromosome. So if you guys remember, you should all have 46 chromosomes. And of those 46 chromosomes, half are coming from your mom and half are coming from your dad. And that's how you guys get the traits that you have or that you see within you. Which ones are dominant, which ones are recessive. The dominant ones are going to show, or is it codominant, or is multiple allele, whatever it may be. So of those 46 chromosomes that are in every one of your body cells, the first 44 are the first 22 pairs, because remember they come in pairs, one from mom, one from dad. So the first 22 pairs are known as autosomes. These autosomes should be a word that you guys remember we talked about a little bit with mitosis and meiosis. These autosomes refer to body chromosomes. So the traits that we find on your first 44 or 22 pairs of chromosomes are the ones that are like, can you roll your tongue? What color eyes do you have? What color hair do you have? Do you have hitchhiker's thumb? Do you have a straight hairline? Do you have a widow's peak? All of those particular traits are found on those first 44 chromosomes. Your last two, numbers 45 and 46, are known as your sex chromosomes. So these determine whether you are male or female. So if you are female, your genotype is XX. So your chromosomes don't really look like X's. Remember we said the only time you see them like this in that sister chromatid form is when they're physically going through and dividing and they've replicated and they're getting ready to get pulled apart. Usually we'll see them something like this, just a singular chromosome. So your two X's are larger chromosomes. They're about the same size that you see there. When we get to males, their genotype is XY, and it's not like that second chromosome looks like a Y. It actually is a very, very teeny tiny little piece of chromosome. And because of it, it's so small, it doesn't hold the same traits that we would see on that X chromosome. So the females have 2 of the X chromosomes, the males only have 1. And this plays a role in how these sex-linked traits can get passed back and forth. So some of the traits that we find on sex chromosomes, first one is something called hemophilia, and there are different degrees of this because there are different clotting factors that you have within your blood. But hemophilia is a disorder where your blood does not clot. You actually lack that protein, which means that there's a mutation within your DNA and within protein synthesis, and you're not making that particular protein. So we could say, oh, well, big H is your normal blood. Little h would represent hemophilia, and that actually will go on these X and X chromosomes here in a moment. But usually our disorders that you guys are going to see are going to be our recessive choices here. So another one could be color blindness. And within that PowerPoint, I sent you guys some pictures to say, look at these particular pictures. Can you see images within them? So that's kind of determining whether you are colorblind or not. So when you're colorblind, it's not that you don't see any colors whatsoever. It just means that you have trouble seeing or deciphering between certain colors. So maybe you have trouble telling the difference between blue and green. They kind of maybe look the same to you, or maybe red, green, or blue, purple. Those are the ones that we usually see with color blindness. Big B would be your normal vision. Little b would be someone who is colorblind. Muscular dystrophy, it's actually called Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And this is a progressive disorder. That means over time it gets worse and worse. And this is basically where the muscles begin to break down and eventually leads to death. Because if you think about your muscles, your organs, your heart, that's all muscle based. So as your muscles begin to break down, that heart's not able to pump. People have to be put on ventilators in order to help pump that oxygen throughout their body and move things around. But eventually over time, those muscles break down. It will lead to death. Big D would be normal muscles. Little d would be muscular dystrophy. So how are these particular traits, and I should say these are not the only sex-linked traits that you have. There are a few of them, but they're not your only ones. So how do these pertain to the sex chromosomes? Because I go, oh, well, normal B or normal vision is big B and colorblind is little b, or normal muscle is big D and little d is your muscular dystrophy. We now need to put them on those sex chromosomes. So let's think about it this way. If I cross mom and dad get married, they have some kids, what's the probability of having a boy or girl? It's always, always, always going to be 50-50. So if we cross mom and dad, mom is XX, dad is XY. Notice that what I used to cross them before between parents, I used to use an X. I changed it to just a dot, meaning I'm multiplying, I'm crossing them. So mom and dad, they still go on the Punnett square. Mom's along one side, dad's along the other side. We get a 50-50 shot. They can have 2 girls, they can have 2 boys. Always, always, always will be 50-50. The first time around, they have a girl. Second time around, it's still a 50-50 shot whether they have boy or girl. Each pregnancy is an independent event, and we'll talk more about that when we get to dihybrid crosses as well. What you guys are also going to notice here is that with these particular boys that get produced, mom is the one that's always giving the X chromosome to those boys. Dad's always going to give the Y chromosome. So it's actually dad who's determining the sex of that particular baby. Dad is giving the Y chromosome to the boys. He's giving an X chromosome to the girls. So when we're talking about the boys, it's always mom passing on that X chromosome to the boys. And that will kind of lead to some of the things that we're going to see here. So one of the things that we know, since sex-linked traits is only on the X chromosome and not the Y, more men are going to be affected by these sex-linked traits: colorblindness, hemophilia, muscular dystrophy. It's not to say that females cannot have these disorders, it's just that they need 2 recessive genes, where the men or the males only need 1 recessive gene. They only have 1 X chromosome, and the traits are only carried on the X chromosome. Since females have 2 X chromosomes, they have more choices within their key. If they get a single recessive gene, they still have 1 normal gene. It's kind of like a monohybrid cross. They can be X big B, X little b. They're still normal. They're heterozygous. In this case, we call them carriers, which means they carry the recessive gene, but they're still normal. They can pass that recessive gene on. So it's always the mom who gives her sons the traits found on the X chromosome. So if we look at this little problem that we have here, we can say cross a carrier female and a normal male. Can they have a colorblind child? And it's usually what you guys are going to see. Am I asking you specific questions? Is it yes or no? Is it percentages? Whatever it may be, you still need to do your 5 steps in order to complete it. So now let's look at the key. It always has 5 parts to it. So if we're looking at this particular key, the females will always have 3 choices here. So my 3 choices, if I'm talking about colorblindness, and I know that big B is normal vision and little b is colorblindness. Colorblindness is recessive. Now let's throw that on those X chromosomes. Females are XX, so I can have X big B, X big B. She's a normal female. There's my little symbol for normal female. You'll see it get used down below. She is homozygous dominant. I have X big B, X little b. Yeah, she's got that recessive gene in there, but she's still a normal female. She has that dominant gene that's going to be stronger than the recessive gene. We say that she's a carrier female. So carrier females are still normal. The only way you can get a colorblind female is that mom gives a recessive gene and dad gives a recessive gene. So if you have a colorblind female, her father absolutely has to be colorblind there. So X little b is my only choice there for my colorblind female. With my boys, I only have 2 choices. Either you have it or you don't. There is no carrier. There is no heterozygous choice here. Nothing is going on that Y chromosome. So it's either X big B Y, normal male, X little b Y, colorblind male. You either have it or you don't. Go back through. Step number 2. What is my parent cross? I'm crossing a carrier female, X big B, X little b is carrier, with a normal male, X big B Y. One across the side, one across the top. Once again, it still does not matter who goes where. If I want to put dad here and mom there, it does not matter. X's will go before Y's, capital letters before lowercase letters. Go through, fill them in. X big B, normal female. X big B, X little b. Still a normal female. She's a carrier, but she's still normal. X big B Y, normal male. X little b Y. There's a colorblind female. Notice mom gave that little b gene. Genotypes get a little longer. Phenotypes get a little longer. They will on dihybrids as well. So go through and write them out. I have 1 X big B, X big B. I have 1 X big B, X little b. 0 that are X little b, x little b, 1x big B y, 1 little, or x little by. I'm going to go through and look at them. So I can say, okay, well, my normal females, I have 2. X big B, and X big B, X little b. They are both normal. So those are my normal females. I have no colorblind females. I have 1 normal male and I have 1 colorblind male. So how could I ask you guys questions like this particular page? So what you guys may see is, well, thinking about that cross that we just did, I could say, well, what percentage of the children who are colorblind? Well, out of those children who are colorblind, only 1 out of 4. So you would say, oh, it's 25%. But I might also ask you, out of the boys, what percentage of the boys are colorblind? If we're looking at those boys again, I only produce 2 boys or have a probability of producing 2 boys. One of those 2 is colorblind. There I have a 50% chance of having a colorblind boy. What is the probability of having a colorblind girl? Absolutely none. 0 out of 2. I cannot have a colorblind girl. Their first boy is colorblind. What is the probability? That should be... Their first boy is colorblind. What is the probability boy number 2 will also be colorblind? It's still 50-50. It's still 1 out of 2. Independent events. Just because, let's say, the first boy is colorblind, they go, oh, first boy is colorblind, and next time they have a boy, it absolutely is going to be normal. Not a shot. Every independent event, every time they get pregnant, I can have the same 4 possible offspring there. So if the first boy ends up being colorblind, I can have another boy that's colorblind. I can have a third boy that's colorblind. Who gave the boys their colorblind gene? That absolutely is going to be mom. Remember, dad gives the Y gene. So thinking about that, thinking about the key that you guys have, I asked you guys to kind of try these 2 particular problems. I said, you only have to write 1 key. It's going to be the same because I'm asking still about colorblind, but I do want you guys to write the key for this. Get used to writing it. It's always going to be the same. I don't care if you write the same key and you always use X big B's, and little b's, and just say, okay, well, that B equals hemophilia, or that B equals colorblindness, or that B equals muscle. I don't care. That B can equal anything that your key says it represents. But I want you guys to go through and try these 2 problems showing all 5 steps. So if you haven't done that, go through and do it now, and I'll be right back with you, and we'll go through them together.